Okay. Now, thank you so much for watching us. If you've just joined midway, we are still with Mr. Benjamin, a teacher of history, and he's helping us dissect the question of the Bantu, who they are, their origin, their organization in terms of social life, economic, political life, and religious life. Now, of course, moving on to the next segment of this video, I want to start by reading out, part of, a text from a book, The Land of the Heart of Livingstone, or The Genius of the Bantu, written by N.B. Gomley. This book was released in 1920. Now on page 31, it says, "It is allowed that groups of Israelitish people have from time to time journeyed into the Upper Nile country. But this does not seem to sufficiently account for the large access of influence of which the Bantu are the concrete result." It continues to say, "In the absence of direct proof of an extensive migration," okay, it says, and I want to repeat, in the absence of direct proof of an extensive migration, this hypothesis brings us to two considerations. These are customs, religious or otherwise, and those of language relations. Okay? So, without evidence or without direct proof of an extensive migration, this hypothesis brings us to two considerations, those of customs. They're looking at customs, and under customs they're talking about religious and otherwise, and also those of language relations. Now, the contention has been made that the extraneous element of the Bantu was derived from tribes of Israel, which were first carried away to Babylon, as related in scriptures, and who afterwards, in whole or in part, migrated through Egypt into equatorial Africa, and through mingling with native tribes upon whom they imposed much of their own religion. Okay, now, having read this, I want us to go into the subject of the Bantu migration, because according to the writer of this book, there is a contention, or there is a suggestion, or a hypothesis that the Bantu tribes today are Israelitish people, or they are Israelites who migrated after the Babylonian, after they were taken captive into Babylon. Now, if you read and you're familiar with the biblical text, there is the Babylonian captivity where Israelites were taken into Babylon. They were taken captives. They were captured and taken and treated as slaves into Babylon. Now, according to the writer, he puts out a narrative that it is after the Babylonian captivity that these people who were captured into Babylon then migrated downwards through Egypt, then into equatorial Africa, or Central, East, and perhaps towards south of Africa. Now, according to the history books from which you teach your learners, where did the Bantu originate?
I want to thank you for that. I think now the text that you have read can still guide us and can give us a bit of a picture of what maybe the books are most trying to bring. Because when we look at the origin of the Bantu, because most historical history books say that the origin of the Bantu is not very clear. And of course that's why in most books they say that their origin is still debatable among historians. But of course most of them, they say that they believe that the Bantu this group of Bantu migrated basically from the central part of what? Africa. Others say that the Bantu migrated from the West Africa. Basically, some people say that they migrated from the Congo, Katanga basin. Others say they migrated from Cameroon. Others say that they migrated from Niger Delta, or Niger, that side of Niger Delta, south, wherever, somewhere. But of course, what is clear is the origin of the Bantu, basically, according to most people, at least they bring areas from West Africa and Central Africa. And therefore, when we were reading that quotation, what came to my mind, like now I said that when we look at the book of the history of East Africa by George Agaba, I remember I told you that for him he said that the Bantu are a Negro group of people. And maybe, like I said, that because we bring the idea of Negro, it means it's a mixture of whites and blacks. So there's a possibility that, of course, after that Babylonian saga, because there's a group that was able to move into Egypt, there's a group that was able to move into Equatorial. So, of course, there was a purposeful mixture. Like now they were able to intermarry. Then maybe due to, because like you say, due to other factors, maybe like population increase, like other things, because others were now able to enter maybe the issue areas of Congo, others were able to go to the other side of Cameroon, and like that. And maybe that is where they could have started from. And of course, it wasn't something that they would not end there. Because now that's where they say that after saying that they came from those areas, most now people say that when they left those specific areas, most of them came and settled in Katanga, that is in Congo. And they, of course, they say that one became their first disposable point. Because like after moving, so the other say that after coming from the other side of Congo, they first stayed in Katanga. Now, others say, of course, after coming from maybe Cameroon and others, they stayed in Katanga. Then, of course, even after staying in Katanga, that is in Congo, they were able to continue with their what? Their movement.
Hold on.
Yes.
When they settled in Katanga,
Yes.
in Congo,
Yes.
where had they moved from?
Yeah, of course, when they settled from that, because like I said, Katanga became their first disposable point. Yeah?
Right.
So,
From where?
From when you read most books, they say from the others came from the side of Cameroon. Mm-hmm. Others said they came from the Niger Delta. Others say they came from Congo. So we are now bringing an issue that where a group was in Congo, then within Congo, others were able to move to the other side of Katanga within Congo. Then, of course, the other ones coming from the other side of the Niger Delta, and also coming and settled in what? Katanga. Then, of course, there's a group that was able to come there to the other side of Cameroon. Since now it is not clear that there's a group who was able to come from Cameroon and settled in Katanga. Then, of course, after settling in Katanga still, of course, due to other factors, we now see these other groups continuing to move until others were able to reach into East Africa. And of course, within East Africa, they were not only able to stay in one area, they were able to disperse. They were able to continue moving in different directions in their different groups until they were able to establish themselves in some areas that they are in East Africa.
See, there is also another explanation that certain groups of Bantu migrated from present-day Ethiopia and or Egypt, okay, from that direction westwards. Is that the history of Africa and Africans has been misrepresented in some. Sometimes it has been misrepresented. Okay, now isn't it questionable when you hear words like the origin of the Bantu is not clear. Okay, should we not have more questions to try and solve that problem, or try to understand why is it not clear? Okay, and in my mind, you know, I can't, my spirit is not settled hearing that their origin is not clear.
Yes.
So should we not have more questions perhaps on that matter?
Yeah, I want to thank you for that. Of course, like any other person, like we are saying that the world we are in now, we are not basically going to rely on maybe what is around us. We are meant to discover more things. And I wouldn't want to say we should end there. I think for purposes of making the world really get to know the truth, I think it is better that we get that and we are able to find really that before settling in those different areas. Okay, like we said that, okay, before settling in Cameroon, before settling in Niger Delta, before settling in Congo and different other areas, where did this group come from? I think it is an issue that we need to handle and really come up with, so that we really clear this and say that these other things where they say the history and the origin of the Bantu is not clear shouldn't be the case again, where these people are able to know really that before the Bantu come in and settle in Congo, before the Bantu come in and settle in Cameroon, or before them coming and settling in any part of West Africa or Central Africa, this is where they originated from. I think it is a good thing, and we need to see how we can work upon that.
Okay. So what about the, we have seen from the text that I read, that when they migrated into the areas where they settled finally, they influenced the people or the groups of people whom they found in those areas. Okay. Can we talk about the inhabitants of the areas where the Bantu migrated to?
Yeah. So of course, thank you for that. Of course, like we said in the beginning, that the Bantu came from different areas and they settled in different areas. And of course, we wouldn't want to rule out that there were some people who were in those areas before them coming into.
Before their arrival.
Because when we look at in most books of history, they say that the Bantu were the second people to migrate into East Africa in particular. Meaning, as for them, there were given groups of people that were there.
Absolutely.
Now, like we said in the beginning, that the Bantu migrated basically into East Africa in 4 groups.
Mm-hmm.
And we are saying that the first group that came into East Africa was the Western Bantu. Of course, some people say the Interlacastine Bantu. We say that this group of the Bantu migrated into East Africa, and they said they passed through Lake Edward and Lake Albert. And of course, after entering into Lake Edward and Albert, they got the Tracy people around that area, because the Tracy were the first people to live in those areas around Bidora and other areas. So they came and they were able to stay in those other areas. And of course, given the fact that these were areas near lakes and rivers, of course they had to see how to also adapt certain life that was taking place in that area. Of course, when we look at, like, to the case of the Trace, if you like me to say, the Trace was that group of people who basically did iron smelting, and for them, they were basically also doing things like basically rearing animals. That is what they were used to. But now, of course, when this other group of Bantu were able to come and settle in those areas, they were able to influence the life of the Trace. One, we are saying that when they came, because they had to influence these people by also adopting what we call settled life. in the process of adapting a certain kind of life, they were able to start growing crops. Now, meaning now they had to change from basically nomadic, from this livestock rearing where they used to rear animals. They now had to also say, I think we not only need to rear animals, we also need to what? Grow crops too. Of course, that was due to the influence of these people, because now this is something these people were not able to do before. But of course, it is only after the arrival of this group of the Bantu that were able to settle within their area, that they were able to change. When we look at also as far as the political life was concerned, because now we look at, we said, of course, after coming and settling in those areas, they were also able to change the system of administration. Now, their side, they were not so much on the kingship where they would have a centralized system of government. But when these other people came, that's why now we say that now, as far as the political life was concerned, they also were able to adopt what we call the centralized system of government. When we look at other groups, of course now, like we said that some other groups went, like that was basically in Uganda. When we look at, I said that in the Kenyan highland, before the coming and the settling of the Kikuyu and the Luya and others,
who are Bantu?
Yeah, who are Bantu? They were the Kushites. And the life of the Kushites by that time was basically hunting and food gathering. But now when the Bantu came and got these people practicing this hunting and food gathering, and looking at the nature of soil that was in the Kenyan highland, definitely what did the Kuyu and the Luya do? They had to change these people's kind of life. That's why now we say they were able to influence crop growing among other activities that we would be able to. Because now we shall also say that because these people were also able to realize that really we have been just there doing nothing, yet our area is productive. And of course, that's why now we see that at the end of the day, we can say it is because of such things that more other people were attracted and they were able to come and settle in in East Africa, due to after seeing what the Bantu had done and what the potential of East Africa was.
According to other historians, they say that in Central Africa, there were the Pygmies. In East Africa, there were the Bushmen, and as well as South Africa, before the Bantu settled in those areas. There were the Khoi or the San people in South Africa.
I think I forgot that, because I read where we said that the Bantu were able to mix up with the Khoi. And also with the rebel, because now when you look at the Khoi also was the life of the Khoi was so much on pastoralism, rearing and now we see that at the end of the day they were also able to adapt this other agriculture where we were able to grow crops.
Okay. All right, man. Thank you so much for joining us today for this conversation about the Bantu. If you liked, if you thought this discussion was informative, leave a like for the video. Also consider becoming a subscriber to the channel so that you can keep, following what we do right here. And of course, thank you so much, Benjamin. And peace. We'll see you in another video.